Today's video is presented by Notes and Clips. Head to notesandclips.com and use the code Badower25 for a 25% discount. Do you ever imagine impossible fights and wonder who would win? I know boxing fans constantly debate Muhammad Ali or Iron Mike Tyson. Or maybe you're into basketball and it's LeBron's 2012-2013 Miami Heat versus Jordan's 95-96 Bulls. Or maybe you like politics and you want to pit Ronald Reagan versus Vladimir Putin while mounted on horseback. Most people I know love to game out fictional competitions. I love it too. As a professional writer and as a fan, my thing is to game out superheroes. And here's how I do it. In a bare white room with indestructible walls, who would win in a fight? I want to pick some battles at you, and I want you to game out who you think would win. And I'll accept all contenders, comic book or movie version, or even halfway in between. Okay.
Round one, fight!
Wolverine versus Mysterio. Interesting, right? Tricks and illusions versus an adamantium-laced killing machine? How about the Red Skull versus the Incredible Hulk? Or finally, Doctor Strange, the master of the mystic arts, pretty accurately portrayed in the movies, versus Crossbones, a highly trained soldier, also pretty accurately portrayed in the movies. Let me know how you think these would roll in the comments. As a writer, I create drama from having my protagonist struggle against overwhelming odds. For superheroes, to figure out what's out of their league, you gotta figure out their power level. As a fan, it's sort of a thought experiment. As we talk about these fights, we're coming to a consensual agreement over the order of this fictional universe. And we get to feel pretty smart while we do it, as all those hours spent reading comic books and watching movies feel valuable. But have you ever debated with someone who absolutely does not agree in any way that's remotely close to your point of view? And that brings me to Marvel Snap. An absolutely fantastic game, like...
And the Game Award goes to Marvel Snap.
Fantastic, that I played quite thoroughly. But when I see Marvel Snap do these matchups, I find myself absolutely confused by their responses. Despite a whole host of awesome and very Marvel things that Marvel Snap does, and I'll go into all of them, it makes Marvel Snap's depiction of the Marvel Universe feel, for me, not very Marvel. And I don't want to be some sort of gatekeeper. First, I'm not as cute as Sigourney Weaver. And two, I'm just talking about me and how I see the Marvel Universe. What makes Marvel, Marvel for me? Because the idea of Marvel is so big and complicated. It's impossible to have read every comic, played every game, and watched every show, cartoon, and movie. What is and isn't something is a spectrum. It's different for everyone. What's Marvel for you might not be Marvel for me. In fact, one of the reasons I'm doing this is I hope I can read someone's comment below that will change my mind, or at least reduce this gap between how I see Marvel and how Marvel Snap presents the Marvel Universe. So what's my perception of Marvel? I mean...
Who am I?
I've worked on the advertising campaigns of all 3 Spider-Man movies. I've drawn and written a bunch for DC Comics, but I've never actually worked for Marvel Comics. So, hey Marvel Comics.
Send a raven.
I'd love to work with you. Anyway, let me show you what I have done. Superhero video games. Welcome to the panel, where I look at the world through the frame of the comic book. My name is Jason Badower, and if you want to check out my comics, I highly recommend Joker, Harley, Criminal, Sanity at your local comic shop and Artemis on lindsaysterling.com. As a huge comic book fan, I've spent most of my life starving for any spandex wrap crumb that would fall off any video game developer's table. As a kid, playing this felt like this. And for years, my imagination had to close that gap. But then I played Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Asylum, and my mind was blown. Legendary Batman and comic book writer Grant Morrison described it not as a Batman game, but as a Batman simulator. And my friend asked me why I was doing a second playthrough, and I was like, dude, the first time I was a moron in a batsuit, and now
I'm Batman.
This was the first superhero game where I didn't need to use my imagination. There was no gap. I was the goddamn Batman. And over the years, it's been an embarrassment of superhero video game riches. The entire Arkham trilogy, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Guardians of the Galaxy. The bar these days is high. Yes! Even on mobile, it's been great. My favorites have been Marvel Puzzle Quest and DC Legends. Marvel Strike Force is also fun, but the raid mechanics turn that game into a goddamn full-time job. Before I talk about the marvelousness of Marvel Snap, I want to talk about why I think it's brilliant. If I had to oversimplify, I would say Marvel Snap is like a game of Texas Hold'em poker, but there are 3 runs. Each run has a different condition affecting the cards there, and each turn you get an increasing amount of energy to play cards with heroes on them. Each card has a variety of values and effects. Your goal is to get the highest score in a run. The winner of 2 of the 3 runs wins the game, and the coolest thing about it, instead of betting money each round, you bet your ranking. If you love the thrill and betting mechanics of poker, and you love Marvel, you could save yourself a ton of real-life cash and have a lot of fun and play this instead. So let's talk about what I find really Marvel about Marvel Snap. The art. The artwork on the base cards is absolutely spectacular. Let's talk about the amazing art from the industry legend Ryan Benjamin to the absolute superstar John Boy Myers, and then my new favorite, Joe Vereen. This is top tier work. If I'd drawn any of these, I'd be like,
I'm the best.
but I also want to talk about the coloring. Holy cow, John Boy Myers' coloring is absolutely ridiculous. Just for some context, I have pretty high standards for coloring as I get to work with the incredible Annette Kwok as my regular colorist. To give you an idea of how good Annette Kwok is, at C2E2 one year, Kemi Garcia, my writer on Joker Harley, invited me to drinks with ex-VP of DC Comics and industry legend Bob Harris. This is the guy who put Jim Lee on the X-Men way back in 1989 and created modern comics as what we know today. And Bob was like, Annette Kwok should be a household name. Working with Annette Kwok's world-class talent has forced me to try to apply those incredibly high standards to my own work. She is my yardstick for what I consider brilliant. So when I say that I think the coloring on these cards is off the goddamn charts, I hope you don't think I'm throwing out praise lightly. In my opinion, these are cover quality pieces of work. Look at the textures, the reflections, the depth, the composition, and the energy. If any one of these pieces was a comic book cover, people would buy it just because it was so damn good. But in Marvel Snap, this is just a base card. You don't even have to pay for it. Here you go, free.
Inconceivable!
And I can't stress enough that all of this fantastic artwork makes Marvel Snap feel so freaking Marvel. Hats off to Jamara Kindred, art director at Second Dinner, for shepherding this visually brilliant take on the Marvel Universe. What I love is that so many of these pieces show these classic characters in a fresh new light. They bring a new vision, a new energy, and a new love to the Marvel Universe. And they mix this original art with classic covers, and visually, man, as I play, I just feel like I'm in a big bath that someone just poured a whole bunch of Marvel into. Hey Jamaro, if you ever want me to do a variant for you, dude, I think we could create something really special. If anyone has any ideas on who I should draw, let me know in the comments below. But I want to move on to the next thing I love, the logos. Please don't just think that logos are words made pretty. Unlike DC, Marvel characters have very few iconic symbols, and if they do have them, they are massive radical variations. I mean, what's Iron Man's symbol? His arc reactor? This arc reactor? That arc reactor? His helmet? Or his repulsor beam? The answer is all of them, and sort of none of them. But what's Superman's symbol? It's the same symbol, just tweaked rather than a completely different image. So for Marvel, this makes their logos essential to their characters. Sometimes Marvel Snap uses actual logos, which I just love. Or other times they've come up with entirely new logos, like Hobgoblin, and my favorite, the Destroyer. Look at these cool touches. Spikes on the side of the Destroyer logo. Even without seeing the art, you know who this is. Well, thanks to the first Thor movie, you do now anyway.
Here I come.
Seriously, hats off to whoever designed this. And then there's the amazing animations and sound design. These are really some of my favorite parts of the game. This is Cyclops burning his way onto the board. Nightcrawler's Banff teleportation is awesome. It feels like the second movie. And I dig with the heavy characters like the Thing,
It's clobbering time!
She-Hulk, and the Hulk come onto the board. It feels like this. So much love has gone into so many of these that they bring me a genuine sense of joy when I play. I actually feel like the character is in my hand. And then, listen to the sound and the dialogue.
I am Iron Man.
That's cool, right? You can see the love, and the casting is good. This is made by someone who knows these characters. I also kind of love the main theme. I unfortunately have to turn it down whenever I'm pretending to do something else, but I'm actually secretly playing Marvel Snap. But when I'm alone, as I was saying, there's a lot of good, but nothing is perfect. So
I'll catch you on the flip side.
I'm actually re-recording this, and it's ironic because having to do this actually makes my point. Originally, I was talking about how much I love what I thought was one artist's work, but it turned out to be John Boy Myers. I've checked a couple of websites now, and the problem is I can't really be sure of whose work is whose, as Marvel Snap doesn't credit their artists. Creator rights are an ongoing issue for the industry. I mean, should David Arger get paid for Hawkeye using his designs? Should Dan Slott get a check for laying out the plot and the main characters of the law firm in She-Hulk? We're going to work through all of this. But the one thing you can guarantee is that in every single Marvel Comics is a credits box. Even the far less successful AAA Marvel's Avengers game credits the creators. And please, Marvel Snap, credit all your artists, not just the superstars. Every single one of these artists has a fan base that would love to know they're drawing for Marvel Snap. There's people who've paid for every single Dan Hip variant, and I promise you, fans will do that for every single artist you credit. We all have fans, from your guest artists to your superstars. And if I haven't offended them with these videos, maybe one day, a Jason Badower variant, please, please, please. And look, they even have this super cool watercolor variant. Watercolor variant? Watercolor variant? Shut the front door, Second Dinner. What are you doing? That is freaking ex-Marvel Chief Creative Officer Joe Quesada, legendary writer inker Jimmy Palmiotti, and David Mack on so-called watercolor duties. Quick context. All three are multi-Eisner nominated and multi-award-winning international comic book superstars. They are all guests of honor at conventions and goddamn comic book royalty. And if we're talking about rankings, Quesada and Mack are right up there with Art German Alex Ross. You can debate who's better, but all of them are all-star players. In fact, when Cami Garcia told me that she got David Mack to paint the Joker's artwork and a cover for our Joker Harley criminal Sanity, it was one of the greatest creative days of my life, something on my honest-to-God bucket list, and I still consider merely appearing in the same book as David Mack one of my career highlights. I apologize to Jimmy Palmiotti, but you could just do Quesada Mack variant and that's still proper form. But my brain looks at this watercolor variant and I can only entertain two possibilities. Either the Marvel Snap shop team didn't know the industry-leading stature of this art team, or worse, they didn't think anyone would care. Either answer is making my spider sense tingle, and it kinda also breaks my heart. Maybe you think it's a little thing, but I think it's a little more. And the reason why is because Marvel Comics fans buy comics for two reasons. One, characters, and two, creators. I mean, what if you saw a trailer for a film, and they never mentioned it was directed by Christopher Nolan? Or a late night show announces the musical act and it's Taylor Swift, but they never mention her by name. That'd be weird, right? That's how I feel when I see this. These guys are my Christopher Nolans, my Taylor Swifts. Marvel Snap is doing a great job of selling characters, really great, but they need someone on the team who can advocate for the creator side of Marvel Comics, calling a Quesada Mack cover a watercolor variant.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
Let's go back to something positive. Let's talk about great cards. Remember I said you play cards with different values and abilities? Well, every card is a different superhero. These are my favorites, and they just ooze Marvel to me. Spider-Man is pretty damn cool. He'll web up a location, stopping anyone else from going there.
Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here.
It's simple and it's elegant, and the voice work and animation are also top-notch. Then there's Venom and Carnage. These two members of Spidey's Rogue Gallery are so well done. Both Venom and Carnage eat other cards to become more powerful, and under the right circumstances, these symbiotes can run amok, reminding me of all the storylines where the symbiotes ate their way across the planet. Then there's Bucky Barnes, who you might remember from the first Avenger. This card is my absolute favorite. When Bucky is killed, he comes back as the Winter Soldier. Come on now, that is top-level storytelling in a freaking card game. I swear, whoever designed this card,
Perfection.
I also think Yondu, Squirrel Girl, Apocalypse, and Armor are also exceptionally designed, and they feel like these characters stepped right out of the panel or off the movie screen and into the game. My point is, Marvel Snap is perfectly capable of capturing Marvel characters accurately and in really deep and meaningful ways. And that brings me to my big struggle with Marvel Snap. Despite the amazing art, the fantastic logos, sound design, and animation, these fantastic cards are unfortunately in the minority, because I believe the majority of the cards are not very Marvel. Let's go back to those fights I mentioned at the start. I believe the idea to any universe, real or imagined, is that there's an inherent logic to the world, the characters, and their relationships. A universe is a set of rules. This is a universe with warp drives. This is a universe with magic. And this is a universe with none of that cool stuff. We got gypped. This is totally
The darkest timeline.
And despite being fictional, there are certain things these characters can and cannot do. Pulling an example from my main employer, the distinguished competition, Batman. The Dark Knight. If normal Bruce Wayne, with no sexy exosuit, picked up a car, you'd be like, Batman can't do that. Or maybe you'd be like, that's not Batman. You see, when you set something in a universe, you have to abide by the rules and relationships of that universe. Characters need to be relative to the world around them and also each other. I would go so far to argue that characters are defined by their limitations. The beauty of great stories is they show how those characters are able to transcend all those things that they initially seem unable to do. Marvel stories are mostly about characters defeating seemingly insurmountable internal and external forces. It's the core basis of every great Spider-Man story. Spidey is almost always the underdog, and the term underdog implies that under normal circumstances, Spider-Man cannot win this fight. But as the story is masterfully told, we see how resourceful, tough, and clever Peter is, and somehow he figures out how to solo the Hulk, the FF, the X-Men, and even the unstoppable Juggernaut. Now in Marvel Snap, there's no story. A fact that Ben Brody, Hamilton, and the rest of the team strategically chose to do.
And here's the thing. At A tier, no story at all.
There's nothing to explain why Wong is teamed up with Black Panther and Arnim Zola, but teaming these guys up in Marvel Snap, you'll
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
And while the gameplay, the execution of this combo is really, really fun, any story featuring Wong, the Black Panther, and Arnim Zola teaching up is going to be significantly
complicated. Hey, it's complicated.
So I agree with Second Dinner's choice. No story is a simpler and more elegant approach, but I believe that means there's extra emphasis that your characters need to be accurately reflective of the comic book or even the cinematic counterparts, and that there is the problem. With great power, I'm a believer, perhaps even a true believer. Oh look, it's my Stanley Funko Pop I designed and did the artwork for. Sweet. Anyway, I'm a believer that to fairly assess something, you hold it up to its own internal logic. Marvel Snap sums up a hero's ability to fight and defend a location in their power. It's this number, here. And you might be like, yeah, Jace, but what about their superpowers? Every hero and villain has their own cool and different powers. Yes, absolutely. And in Marvel Snap, those powers generally affect this power number. The higher this number, the more capable they are of winning a location. Marvel Snap also uses this power number as a representation of a character's sum total ability because of the location Warrior Falls, lovingly adapted from the fantastic Black Panther movie. This location forces two heroes to fight. The one with the lowest power loses. This location is literally that one-on-one thought experiment I started this whole thing with. Not that thing. This thing, the white room with the indestructible walls. And when I start comparing power and looking at who would win a location and who would win in Warrior Falls, I find myself super confused. Marvel Snap's whole interpretation of the Marvel Universe doesn't make any sense to me. Let's start with those battles I posed through the eyes of Marvel Snap. Wolverine in Marvel Snap has a measly 2 power out of a possible 20, while Mysterio has 4. If there is anyone out there that thinks in round 1 of a straight up fight that Quentin Beck is going to end up as anything other than a two-fisted shish kebab, well then you have a very different impression of Wolverine than I do. Now, Wolverine's power in Marvel Snap is that if he's killed, he comes back with +2 power. This is a fun way of summing up Wolverine's healing factor and his berserker rage. So I'll agree with you that there is a possibility for Mysterio to beat Wolverine, but for Wolvie to then come back in a berserker rage for a draw? That makes it feel far less like this berserker rage. And more like this.
No, Wolverine, snickety, snoring.
What about my second example? Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, has 3 power in Marvel Snap, and so does Captain America. Which is interesting, because Doctor Strange is a master of the mystic arts, and Cap is a peak physical specimen. But 3 power? Okay, sure. If they had a fight, it'd be a draw. That works for me. But what's weird is that they both lose to Mysterio. So what if they were to fight Crossbone?
There you are, you son of a...
And remember, Crossbones is just a dude. A human guy with elite military training and a cool mask. But he's a dude. So remember Cap. The greatest super soldier and leader of the Avengers is a 3. Let's see what Marvel Snap has for Crossbones. Okay, 8, which means that according to Marvel Snap, Crossbones could beat Wolverine and Doctor Strange.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, and remember Agent Coulson,
I'm Agent Phil Coulson with the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
who despite this one moment is just a highly trained normal dude. He has a power rating of 4, meaning according to Marvel Snap, he could defeat either Wolverine, Captain America, or Doctor Strange for the title of
King of Wakanda.
By that rationale, Fury would have just deployed Coulson against the Chitauri.
I will tase you and watch Super Nanny while you drool into the carpet.
But let me take this to Marvel's favorite power yardstick, the guy who for 60 years practically everyone has lined up against, the Incredible Hulk. In the comics, hell, every media, being able to fight the Hulk is a trope. The number of David vs. Goliath stories where Spidey or heck anyone fights the Hulk and somehow figures out a way to beat him or even just stop him are countless. Now in Marvel Snap, the Hulk has 12 power, but there are people that can go one-on-one with the Green One in the comics. The Thing,
It's clobbering time.
the Abomination, and the Juggernaut. But let's look at their numbers. The Thing has 6. Okay, I guess old J. Jaws usually wins, but I would have given Ben a little bit more than half the Hulk's power. What about the Abomination? 9. Sure, I guess that tracks. What about the Juggernaut? 3. What the hell? Kane Marco, the Juggernaut. 3. Can we just check Kane Marco, aka the Juggernaut's Wikipedia page for a sec? Marco possesses superhuman strength, being capable of shattering mountains, lifting and using buildings as weapons, and the Juggernaut's natural durability still proves to be great enough to withstand blows from Thor. The only character to have stopped Juggernaut while he was in motion as an act of pure physical strength was the Hulk, while he was War, a horseman of apocalypse, and empowered with celestial technology.
Seriously? Yes, seriously.
So Juggernaut, 3. Sure. I feel like it's more accurately portrayed in X-Men: The Last Stand.
I'm the Juggernaut.
God, how did it take for a Deadpool movie to get the Juggernaut right? Now I got a buddy, Scott Stewart, who I stream on Twitch with at twitch.tv/Jason Badower. You should join us. He's like a Marvel living library and he owns all of the Avengers, like every single issue published since September 1st, 1963. And I asked Scott who would win in a fight between the Hulk and the Red Skull. Being one of the smartest and nerdiest guys I know, he goes, does the Skull have the cosmic cube? And I was like, nope. And he was like, well, the Hulk would turn the Red Skull into the Red Smear. See, in the comics, the Red Skull has no powers. He's just a normal dude with a face that looks like he decided to headbutt a blender. And even if we're talking about the movie Red Skull, he's strong, but he's not Hulk strong, except in Marvel Snap. In Marvel Snap, the Red Skull has 15 power. Even subtracting 2 from Skull because of his weakness, he'd still beat the Hulk in a one-on-one fight in Warrior Falls. What in the name of Oneg the Prober is going on? I mean, if it was like the Red Skull and all of Hydra, that'd maybe justify a 15? Maybe? And you're probably like, dude, what's the big deal? It's comic book characters, sure. Comic book characters, but there's an underlying logic. I don't think an average middle school tennis player could beat Serena Williams. And if you do, I beg to disagree, as I don't think that your perception of tennis is anywhere near the same as mine. Look, I'd be okay with a couple of exceptions, or even something that was just close enough so that the characters would fit within the confines of the game. But it just breaks my heart, as I feel it's like an epidemic of random numbers. So what if we were given something back in return? I mean, what if the cards work together as teams? Smells like team spirit. Let's keep it simple with the smallest super team in Marvel, the Fantastic Four. Here's something that really bugs me. Not a single member of the Fantastic Four has any synergy with any other member of the Fantastic Four whatsoever. Sue Storm sort of favors what is called an on-reveal deck. She'll hide your cards, allowing you to reveal them all at the end and surprise the opposing player. Mr. Fantastic is a team player. He uses his arms to add a +2 bonus to adjacent areas. And Blue-Eyed Ben is just, as we've seen, Ben. One of the longest standing characters in the Marvel Universe is just a generic card with 6 power. And Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, every time he moves, he doubles his powers, but he needs other cards to help him move. And as you can see, not a single member of the FF will help Johnny move. The point is, you can put all the members of the FF together, nothing's stopping you. You're wasting your time. They will not work together in any meaningful way, which for me feels counterintuitive to 60 years of Marvel Comics.
When your arrival here confuses and destabilizes reality.
And even if they were all one type, even if they were all on reveal or move decks, that'd be cool. And while that might make those decks feel predictable, it's still not a guarantee that you'll see all 4 members of the FF. This lack of synergy also goes for any of the X-Men and the Avengers. If you're trying to put together a deck of cards of one of your favorite teams, you better be prepared to lose. You might get 2 cards that sort of work together, but it feels more like coincidence and conspiracy. I can only think of 2 examples in Marvel Snap where characters synergize in a way that is reflective of the relationships in the comics. The first is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, classic characters created by the legendary Jack Kirby. Moon Girl fills your hands with cards to the maximum, and Devil Dinosaur gets stronger the more cards you have. These 2 are almost always paired together in-game. Then there's Zabu, Kazar, and Shana. Zabu makes 4-cost cards, cost only 2, and both Shana and Kazar are 4-cost, so Zabu makes them cheaper, allowing them to come out faster. Shana then makes a bunch of random 1-power cards, and Kazar then buffs 1-power cards, making them more powerful. Teamwork can actually make the dream work.
Put together a team.
You might be able to think of 1 or 2 more combos. There's really not enough to say that there's any sort of team synergy priority in Marvel Snap.
How many did we win?
Also, I don't feel that any of these cards I just mentioned are balanced with any of the A-list heroes from before, but they do accurately represent each of those characters' relationships, and that's a win for me.
Give me a hell yeah!
But I still just can't seem to
get over the Zargnot!
Before I get to my conclusion, shameless plug. If you want to support me, you can grab my comics. Joker, Harley, Criminal, Sanity at your local comic shop. Head to comicshoplocator.com to find your local store. But I've also chucked an Amazon affiliate link down below. Maybe write me a nice review to go with the ones that are already there. Then there's the graphic novel Artemis, which I wrote with Lindsay Sterling. You can find that at lindsaysterling.com at her shop. If you'd like to join my art club, the Badower Badasses, every month I'm offering prints, digital sketches, VIP pre-stream catch-ups, Discord access, and even opportunities to catch me on stream as I draw your requested sketch on paper that I'll then mail to you. I'm really proud as I think there's something valuable at every level of the art club. I'm using Patreon as the base for the club, and there's a link below. You can always check out my activity at jasonbadower.com, which is my schedule and my upcoming con appearances. And if all that's in the too hard basket, I totally understand. A gentle press of that like button is free and will go a long way to helping me. And if you want more conversation essays about comics and pop culture from an industry perspective, I would love to hang out with you on that subscribe button. I also stream weekly on twitch.tv/Jason Badower. Over there, I'm drawing or spitballing a lot of these ideas with Scott Stewart before I slap them into these video essays. So, Marvel Snap, what's the matter? What's the meta? The matter is that Marvel Snap is a great game that ultimately, zing, I love puns, I think they're the greatest, let's see how many more I can cram in. I feel Marvel Snap has too many cards to create a universe that doesn't feel Marvel to me. I love that they're largely drawing on the comics, zing, and some cards are downright awesome. But you put them all together and the whole thing collapses like a house of cards. Kaboom. Okay, alright, enough. No more puns. But really, I don't know if Second Dinner, the developers, planned it this way. As Ben Brody from Second Dinner said,
from scratch, design a game that would be just like a perfect Marvel game.
Making games is complicated, man. I think these game designers are just brilliant. But something in their process is causing them to lose sight of what I consider makes each card representative of the Marvel character it's supposed to be. Marvel Snap is such a good game. The adrenaline rush of these incredibly fast-paced battles, getting off that sweet combo, retreating when you see bad times coming, it's all awesome. And if this universe inconsistency doesn't bother you, then I absolutely recommend Marvel Snap as a game. But for me, it's really gnawing away. I don't know what it is, but I can't seem to build a bridge to get myself to accept all these cards as the Marvel characters I know and love. The majority of them just feel like cards with Marvel art on them. Beautiful Marvel art, by the way. Look, this is just my headspace, and I'm curious to hear if you agree, disagree, or even agree to disagree. I want to know. Does this affect you too, or is it just me? Are there any other cards you don't think seem consistent with the Marvel Universe? Are there others that do? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Let's chat. Convince me. But here's the thing about me. I hate pointing out problems and not offering solutions. And even better, I think I have a simple and elegant solution to make Marvel Snap way more consistent with the Marvel Universe I know and love. If you want to see it, join me on my next video. You might not know that I draw most of my art digitally, but when I draw something on an actual piece of paper, it brings so much more meaning to me. In an increasingly digital world, having something physical makes something so much more special. And with that in mind, I'd like to introduce you to Notes and Clips. This is a line of absolutely gourmet stationery. It's all hand designed and developed by two ex-software and IT developers. They want to bring you back to doing things with your own hands with something really beautiful. I know how hard it is to buy great presents for people, but Notes and Clips is now your go-to for amazing prezzies. Look at these incredible stationery boxes. These are the perfect gifts, and they cover a range of interests and styles for anyone who only has to have an appreciation for beautiful design and construction. What about weddings? Is your partner-to-be doing all the work? Get them a stationery kit and the wedding planner bundle. After that, you'll be able to fly under the radar until you got to put your tux or your frock on. And if you know someone who's into stickers, Notes and Clips has you covered. I mean, technically they're stickers, but these are next level. They're hand printed, artisan designed. I'm going to call them adhesive decorations. You could use them for planners, cards, put them in your kids' lunchboxes, or just anything you want to make look better or feel special. And that's the thing. Everything Notes and Clips has is the perfect gift. And when you gift them, either to yourself or to someone else, please use them. It's all beautiful. It's art, but it's all designed to be used. And with worldwide shipping and tracking, you'll get your next set from the UK in 7 days to most locations. You can go to their site, notesandclips.com, and it'll even convert everything from pounds to whatever your currency is. And I think their price point is a steal for the quality. So either their Etsy store or their website, notesandclips.com, and if you use the code Badower25 at checkout, you'll get an even further 25% off. I don't know where you're going to find handcrafted stationery at this price. I've used so many digital tools, but there's no replacement for something real, something you could see on your desk or on your shelf. And when you go back to basics, you should do it with something beautiful. Thank you, Notes and Clips, for sponsoring today's video. Whoa, sorry, are you still here? I'm sorry, I'm just about to crush this dude. Oh, motherfucking! He's playing Galactus.